Well, yeah, thank you very much. I think maybe it has to do with the fact that it's not structured in the way most sports movies are. It doesn't follow the Rocky structure where it's all about the achievement and overcoming obstacles, and so we flipped the structure around, I think, to make it more human. Uh, and it's also more true to the life of an athlete, because athletes retire in their 20s where their real life is only just starting. So for us to almost get rid of the big competition within the first 20-25 minutes of the film, and then having more than an hour of like the aftermath and her trying to move from being almost a robot to a human and defining who she is and who she will be for all the years to come, it made more sense to have kind of a longer time devoted after the big adrenaline moments that comes very early in the film. Yeah, well, to start with, personally, well, I used to be a swimmer, so that's part of it. I didn't do it at that level, so I didn't do it all the way in my 20s, didn't necessarily do international swim teams, but I did do it at a national level. I stopped at 19 years old. So it was a big part of me when I was a teenager before I moved into my arts career, I'd say. So, and I just felt like this particular sport was not that well represented most of the time in movies. I as an ex-swimmer, I didn't necessarily see swimming in narrative films in a way that felt authentic or relatable. So that's part of it. But as you mentioned earlier, I think it had to do with the fact that I wanted to show them as humans, not as demigods, or the way the media portray them. There's an aura around those athletes where, to me, these people were my friends. I have ex-Olympian friends, and they're people with their flaws, qualities, the excess of an overachiever, of being an athlete. So it was a big part of that. And I obviously retired from swimming, but it's not necessarily my story, because my transition was very easy in a way, because I was transferring the passion I had for sport into another passion. But I have friends who had a much harder retirement from sports. I think most of the times the hardest retirements are the ones where people don't necessarily have another passion to dive right back into. And after an event such as the Olympics, there's even a term for that. They call it the post-Olympic blues. And there's people who have suffered from depression. There's even a high suicide rates from athletes after their retirement. So it is a very crucial moment in the life of an athlete. And that too, I felt not that many narrative films approached that particular tipping point, and this is what I wanted to do in a very condensed time frame, because the film basically happens on a 3 days in Tokyo kind of time frame. But still, I wanted to explore that very tipping point of a transition, which is very heavy in terms of drama potential, psychological potential. Well, yeah, no, thank you. Well, I obviously swam with boys and girls, and I very much felt like women had a kind of an extra pressure put on them, especially because I think let's say a female swimmer doesn't necessarily fit into a society dictated kind of standard of beauty, which is, it's conceived by society, which is weird, but anyway. And we don't necessarily usually use adjectives such as delicate or fragile, as kind of qualities for women. And I personally think strength and dedication and will and all of these things are also obviously very beautiful for the mind, the soul, the heart, and yeah. So I also wanted to shape a complex female character athlete, but yes, the the way they perceive their own body. Because the film obviously showcases real athletes. That I guess we have to say. It's pretty obvious in the way I think we filmed the movie. But I spoke with them, the two swimmers, and I got to talk to them about that, like, and they said, yeah, if I go out, if I'm with athletes, it's okay, but if I'm with, I guess, civilians, regular people, I feel sometimes very self-conscious about my body. It's an added pressure, and I definitely wanted to talk about that through the story of Nadia. So Nadia is played by Catherine Savard, who's actually a medalist in the Rio Olympic Games, and she's still actively swimming. So she's not a retired athlete. That's a specificity. She's an active swimmer. It's the same for the one who plays Marie-Pierre in the film. They are actually friends in real life, and they are a training partner. So it helped too, because it created kind of a secure environment for them to be doing it, the two of them together. Catherine became involved initially as a script consultant, because when I was writing the film, I also wanted to gather stories or have Olympians and ex-Olympians read the screenplay and tell me what they think. Is it authentic? Anyway? And Catherine, I actually met her at the screenwriting stage, and later in the process, because I never write with a specific actor or person in mind. I try to write an idea of a character, and then through the casting process, I love finding the right person. And Catherine, she's one of the best butterfly swimmer in Canada, so that's one thing. But we auditioned her, and she happened to be the most robust performer in front of the camera. It's a happy coincidence. And it was their first time in Japan. When we shot the exterior scenes of the film, both of them, it was their first time in Tokyo. They enjoyed that part very much. They enjoyed the process very much. They really did I don't know if they're gonna necessarily pursue acting after their swimming career, but they enjoyed it very, very much. And I think they did a good job too. So. Well, yes, of course. Well, I always, when I decide on somebody to play a part, I also value their implication. I value their brain and their sensitivity, and Yes. I'm in the way, let's say, they would say their dialogue lines. I was extremely flexible. Every single time it felt a bit off in terms of acting wise. I was always giving them a lot of liberty. Like, how would you say it? Like, how would you convey this emotion? And I think when you give responsibility to somebody, usually like they want to have it and they want to do good. And for athletes, it worked very well this way, because they are used to perform and they want to perform. So if I give them enough responsibility, they take it very seriously and they want to do well. And so I don't necessarily direct them too much. Like, I'm very not an authoritative director. And but yeah, talking to them, actual athletes, of course, they would have input all the time about what felt more real. And I think I'd be a fool if I to not listen to them in a way. Well, yes. Well, I'm also curious to know how the depiction of the Tokyo went for you and for everybody, because it's such a tricky. Because we did the interiors, most of the interiors, in carefully selected locations, because not everywhere in Canada looks like Japan. let's be honest. And we intertwined it with the Tokyo shoot, which went very well. We had a team of people, of helpers from Japan that helped us shoot there. We only brought from the team the two lead actresses myself, the producer, the director of photography, and her assistant camera. So everybody else, so sound and everything involving logistics, driving, coordination, all of this were hired locally. And that helped a lot. And we had so 90% of what we shot, we had proper permits and everything. And there's a few moments where we roamed the streets a little bit, but it went well. It went very well. We shot early October, and I know it's a tricky time of the year with typhoons. So, but we were extremely lucky in terms of weather. We actually avoided the two big typhoons. We shot in between, like a very bad one that happened late October 2019. So we shot, I think, 2 weeks before that. It was funny too. I think one of the bigger stress for the producer was to ship the mascots from Canada to Tokyo, because they had to arrive on time and in one piece and everything. So we actually had to box and ship the big custom made mascots we did, which was pretty funny, but it was a bit of a stress. It's not the same logo, it's not the same mascots, costumes are different. So we knew we were taking liberty to make a metaphoric Tokyo Games in a way, like not the real one, because they didn't happen yet. But now it makes for an even weirder portrayal of the games that hopefully, for me at least, I don't know what's the opinion, I know it's a sensitive topic in Japan, but at least for the athletes, for Catherine and Ariane and everybody involved, and I hope the games will happen, because for athletes, obviously I wish the games to happen. I know it's a crazy time, but yeah, well, for me personally, I wish the game will happen in July, but I know it's a sensitive topic in Japan. The film has been finished in February of a year ago, basically, and when the pandemic also hit, so it was. Obviously, I was proud of the film. I wanted to share the film with everybody, but the actresses only saw the film way later, like August of that year, because everything shut down. And so I had the film completed, but nobody has seen it for a few months, for a lot of time. And as a filmmaker, I think this is one of the harder times. You just want to talk about it, you want to share it right away because you're excited. And it took a bit longer. But we've been extremely lucky with the Cannes label selection. So that really, the film was already in a kind of a faraway place in my brain. I was already starting working on something else, and then we had that big news, and that put the film back on the map in a very strong way. And just watching the film, I think I'm pretty proud about all the work that's been done in art direction. So costumes and the lots of graphic design, and hopefully the audience will, as you said, feel like they are experiencing the games and the thrill of it and the adrenaline of it, and that I think this is one of the things that makes me the most proud of the film. And what I personally miss the most about swimming in my former life as an athlete was actually the adrenaline. And so for me, the race scene and the way we decided to shoot the scene, which is very in a subjective, where we're in the bubble of Nadia, and we're experiencing it before the race, really very closely to her, and hopefully that adrenaline translates, because this is again what I miss the most, and this is what I wanted. I wanted that scene to really convey that adrenaline of before you actually do a race, and it brought me back. It brought me in a weird nostalgic mood too, of my swimming days. Yes, I hopefully I will not make the same film twice. So I'm always very admirative of filmmakers that are able to really immerse themselves in a topic and very explore it to the fullest and then move on to something else entirely. And right now, this is I'm writing a period film, so it's a 17th century drama, though, because I mean, this is, I think, relationships. I'm very in Nadia Butterfly, it's also a film about friendship. My first feature, the film that I did before, was a kind of a romantic drama, so it was a first love movie. So yes, the human relationships, for sure. I will keep having that, pursue that humanity, I guess, but hopefully in a very different setting each time. And yes, right now I'm so writing a kind of a dark, almost horror 17th century survival film, actually about a crossing from France to New France that went terribly wrong. So in a nutshell, this is what I'm writing about right now. Quebec, Canada, used to be called New France because it was a colony of France. So it's people actually crossing, and there was one particular crossing that went very, very badly. This is what we're writing about. Maybe I think there are so many films out there that it's not just an urge to make one more. Like I try to I try to make the film that I'm missing, like, because also watching a lot of movies, I'm a big cinephile, and sometimes, for instance, Nadia Butterfly, to its core, it was just the sports movie that I was missing, and the way I try to tackle each project is I'm trying to make the film that, as a spectator, I was missing. I want to see, and in that way, and I shouldn't be alone. Like if it's the film that I'm missing, maybe it's the film that a lot of people are somehow missing too. So I'm trying to be extremely conscious about that, because not just making a film for the sake of making a film. So obviously I try to convey something, to say something, and just make the film that I miss. And but I also always wanted storytelling. I used to draw comic strips as a kid, so I think it was always meant to be. Comic, graphic design, graphic novels and cinema is very similar when you think of it, and I think it was just a natural progression too. But yeah. Well, it's the first time the film is shown in Japan. So for me, of all countries, for obvious reasons, it is one of the countries where I'm the most excited to get feedback, but just to be able to show it. So I just want to say thank you for selecting the film very much. And I hope the audience will like it. I hope the film also will challenge the audience, and hopefully the film stays with you. Sometimes we're quick to judge art, and sometimes it takes time for some films to settle and creep in and live with you. And hopefully the next time you watch athletes perform, maybe cinema is an art that creates empathy. And hopefully I did that, but bottom line, I just wanted to say thank you for selecting the film, and it's very exciting for me to be having a Japanese audience for the film. So thank you. Oh yes, I would love to come back when we can.